Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Talking about sensitivity, and more and more men are like that today. Wasn't like that when I was growing up, but today we see it more and more. It seems to be accepted. Christopher Doyle is with me, a licensed clinical professional counselor for Northern Virginia Christian Counseling. And we're going to tell you how to get to his website in a minute here. So, Chris, you say that you are a sensitive man. How did you become that way?
Well, I wanted to thank you, Jesse. I wanted to for people who want more information on my practice, you can go to Nova Christian Counseling, novachristiancounseling.com. The article that I want to reference is by Dr. Ted Zeff, it's Z-E-F-F, and he's written a book called The Highly Sensitive Person's Survival Guide and The Highly Sensitive Person's Companion. And they also just released a new book called The Strong Sensitive Boy. And so he describes sensitivity, especially in males, as having compassion, gentleness, the ability to act as a peacemaker, concern about humane treatment of animals, a sense of responsibility and conscientiousness, creativity, and essentially the tendency to feel love deeply and experience emotions very deeply. One thing that we have to recognize about sensitivity is that it is an inborn trait. There's something in our personality that we're born with, this temperament of being sensitive. The other part of it is that it can be, in some ways, conditioned by our environment, by our family, by our experiences, and also we can change our behavior in some instances to become more sensitive based on why we're motivated to do that. For example, the man who has a wife that's very sensitive will say to her husband, I want you to be more sensitive,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's possible for us to actually consciously become more sensitive in our behavior if we really try to. But it would be more challenging for the non-sensitive person to do that.
But sensitive people are not happy people.
Well, I think that you would have to probably talk to a sample of them to really figure out.
I know a whole truckload of them, Chris. Believe me, over the years. I know one guy who is very sensitive and nice, and he is running himself in the ground, trying to please everybody, be everything to everybody, and can't even really take care of himself because he's so sensitive and connected to everybody else, and it's just really hurting him, but he doesn't see it that way.
But that is a behavior, right, based on
But it comes from those type of emotions. Right.
Right. So as a person, as a psychotherapist, I work with sensitive males every day, okay? And so what I do is I help those men understand, how do you use your sensitivity to benefit you in life, and how can your sensitivity also be your worst enemy, right? Because you're right. With sensitive, highly sensitive people, especially sensitive males, they tend to be these pleasers, these peacemakers. They're not assertive.
Right.
Okay? They tend to be not assertive.
Yeah.
They tend to let people walk all over them.
Yeah.
And then that can turn into passive-aggressive behavior.
Yeah.
So understanding how the sensitive male can be assertive, right, and not passive-aggressive is an important part of the work that I do with my clients, is understanding that, how they can use that sensitivity to their benefit. Listen, I'm a sensitive person. I've been able to harness my sensitivity in becoming a successful therapist. And, there's certainly still times where the sensitivity can drive me crazy,
So you agree with me then that sensitive men are not happy, or sensitive people are not happy people, right?
No, I don't think that. I don't think it's that sensitive people aren't happy. I think that they tend to feel emotions much more deeply than people aren't sensitive. So when they are happy, they're probably happier than a normal happy, and when they're upset or frustrated, they're probably more sad in an extreme level. It's almost sort of like maybe a bipolar type of thing, right? Where they feel the extremes much more deeply, because sensitive people, they tend to be able to feel emotions much more deeply. So I wouldn't say that they're happy, they're any less happy. They just tend to experience those emotions in a more intense way.
How did you become a sensitive man?
Well, I think part of it was just, perhaps it was the fact that in utero, my mother was in a stressful pregnancy, and I can see that. And this doesn't necessarily happen for everyone, but I can see that stress hormones, and some research is finding that stress hormones, an abnormally large amount of stress hormones during pregnancy, can affect the baby in utero.
Yeah.
I see that also with my oldest son. He's extremely sensitive, just like me. And our first pregnancy, my wife and I, was an extremely stressful pregnancy. Lots of stress hormones, because we found out at about 15 weeks that he had a medical abnormality. And so that pregnancy became one of, excitement and joy to one of worry, anxiety, and panic. So I think those stress hormones definitely play an effect. But I also think,
so if it's due to some type of trauma, that means that it's not normal for men, at least men, to be sensitive.
Well, I think that it could be
not natural.
part of it. I think it could be part of it, but I think it's easy for us to paint this in terms of black and white as right or wrong or natural or unnatural. I do believe that God creates us and gives us certain attributes in our personality. For better or worse, we have those attributes, and it's up to us to decide how we are to behave and handle ourselves and conduct ourselves with those special attributes.
Is it something you can overcome, or is it genetic? Is it permanent?
Well, listen, there's very little in the research that's genetic that is a predetermination for our behavior, okay? So when we think about genetics, we think about eye color, hair color, how much you weigh, right? Things that are characteristics of your body, right? Behavior, there's very little that's genetically determined by behavior. What we're looking at is possibly some predisposition. So, for example, God may create us with a certain genetic structure to make us more sensitive. We might experience more stress hormones in utero that may make us create more sensitivity. But to say that those things are going to cause someone, the genetics, is it going to cause someone naturally just to be more sensitive? I don't know if there's a research out there to really say that.
Give me a yes or no. Can you overcome it?
I don't want to say the word overcome. What I want to say is be able to work through and understand how to harness that sensitivity. Because I don't view
something you have
sensitivity
to cope
as a
with.
bad thing. I don't think sensitivity is a bad thing. I think when you look at the type of qualities of a sensitive male, is they can be very good qualities. However, they can also be curses. But you look at some great people in our history, Jesse, who were sensitive. Okay, Jesus, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., the Dalai Lama, Buddha.
But
These
Jesus
are all
wasn't
sensitive
sensitive.
people.
Jesus wasn't sensitive.
I absolutely think he was.
Let me ask, but you said it was something that you're not really happy with. You're unhappy as a sensitive person. You are a people pleaser. Jesus wasn't a people pleaser, and he wasn't a sensitive man. Had he been, he could not have been as honest with all people as he was.
Here's the argument that I'm making with you, Jesse, okay? You can be sensitive and still be strong and masculine. It's about understanding how to use empathy in an assertive manner, okay? So in the sense of Jesus was compassionate, Jesus was gentle, right? Jesus was conscientious, but he also learned how to use his assertiveness. And we also have to, maybe Jesus is a wrong
But
example.
none of those things were, with Jesus, none of those things were based on emotions. When I come back, Chris, we're going to take some calls, and I have something I want to share with you about sensitivity. 888-7753-773. Back in a moment.